Natalie Ross stood at the edge of the ballroom, her emerald dress a splash of color against the golden opulence of the charity gala. At 29, she had worked as a marketing coordinator at Sterling Enterprises for 3 years, always behind the scenes, never quite belonging in rooms like this with their crystal chandeliers and champagne towers. She shouldn't have come tonight, but her supervisor had insisted someone from their department attend, and somehow Natalie had drawn the short straw. Now she stood alone, clutching a glass of sparkling water, trying to look like she had somewhere to be. Then she saw him, Derek, her ex-fiancé, walking through the entrance with a blonde woman on his arm, laughing at something she said with that charming smile Natalie used to think was meant only for her. Her breath caught. It had been 8 months since he'd ended their engagement, claiming he needed space to find himself. 3 weeks later, she'd seen him on social media with someone new. Then another, and another. She'd blocked him eventually, but the wound was still fresh enough to bleed. Derek hadn't seen her yet, but he would. The ballroom was large, but not infinite. And when he did, she would have to endure that pitying look, that awkward greeting, the introduction to his latest conquest while pretending she had moved on just fine. Natalie's eyes swept the room desperately, landing on a man standing alone near the windows. He was perhaps 33, wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo, dark hair styled with precision. He had the kind of presence that suggested importance, though his posture was relaxed as he gazed out at the city lights. Before she could talk herself out of it, Natalie walked over to him. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but desperation had made her brave. "Excuse me," she said quietly. "I know this is going to sound strange, but could you dance with me? My ex just walked in, and I really need him to think I've moved on." The man turned to look at her, and Natalie was struck by his eyes. Thoughtful, kind, with just a hint of something sad around the edges. "Your ex," he repeated, not asking question. "I know it's manipulative and petty," Natalie said quickly, "but I just need to get through tonight without looking pathetic. One dance, that's all. Then you can go back to whatever you were doing, and I promise I'll leave you alone." The man studied her face for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. Not a mocking smile, but something genuine and understanding. "I think we can do better than one dance," he said, offering his hand. "Shall we?" Natalie took his hand, and he led her to the center of the ballroom floor. A string quartet was playing something elegant and timeless, a waltz that reminded her of old movies her grandmother used to watch. As they began to dance, Natalie realized several things at once. First, that this stranger was an exceptional dancer, leading her with a kind of confidence that made even her mediocre skills look graceful. Second, that people were watching them, conversations pausing as couples turned to look. And third, that she felt safer in the stranger's arms than she had in months. "Thank you for this," she whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed not to face him alone." "I think I might have some idea," the man said quietly. His voice carried the weight of someone who understood heartbreak from personal experience. They danced in silence for a moment, and Natalie found herself relaxing into the rhythm. She could see Derek across the room now, and yes, he had noticed her. His expression was one of surprise, perhaps even jealousy, though she might have been imagining that last part. "What did he do?" her dance partner asked gently. "Your ex." Natalie hesitated, then decided the anonymity of a stranger made confession easier. "He proposed to me on my birthday. Said I was the one he'd been waiting for his whole life. 3 months later, he called off the wedding. Said he wasn't ready for commitment, that he needed to explore other options while he was still young." Her voice cracked slightly. The worst part wasn't even the breakup. It was watching him move on immediately while I was still trying to figure out how to be okay again. Like those 3 years we spent together meant nothing. Like I was just practice for whoever came next. The man's hand tightened slightly on hers, a gesture of comfort. He was a fool. "You don't know me," Natalie said with a sad laugh. "Maybe I was terrible to be with. I know you're brave enough to ask a stranger for help rather than hiding in the bathroom all night," he said. "I know you're still here at this gala instead of running away, which takes courage. And I know that anyone who could walk away from someone like you is looking for something that doesn't exist." Natalie looked up at him, really looked, and felt tears threatening. "Why are you being so nice to me?" "Because someone was kind to me once when I needed it," he said, simply. "A few years ago, I went through something similar. Different circumstances, but the same feeling of being replaced, of wondering if I had ever mattered at all." He guided her through a turn, and Natalie caught another glimpse of Derek watching them. But somehow, it didn't matter as much anymore. "What helped you get through it?" she asked. "Time," he said. "And realizing that someone else's inability to appreciate what they had says nothing about my worth. It took a while to believe that, but it's true." The song ended, but instead of releasing her, he asked, "Another dance?" Natalie nodded, and they swayed into the next song. Around them, other couples had joined the floor, but Natalie barely noticed. She was lost in conversation with this unexpected companion who seemed to understand exactly what she needed to hear. "I should probably tell you something," he said after their third dance. "You might want to know who you're dancing with." "I don't need to know," Natalie said. "You've been kind to me. That's enough." "Still," he said gently, "my name is Gabriel Sterling. This is my company's charity gala." Natalie's feet stopped moving. She stared at him, her mind racing through every interaction she'd ever heard about the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, the reclusive billionaire who rarely attended social events, the man whose office was on the top floor she'd never visited, her boss's boss's boss. "Oh, God," she whispered. "You're Gabriel Sterling. I work for you. I'm in marketing. I shouldn't have just grabbed you and demanded you dance with me. I'm so sorry, Mr. Sterling. I'll submit my resignation first thing Monday." "Natalie," he said, and she realized with a start that he knew her name. "Please don't apologize. And please don't resign. You did something very brave tonight. You asked for help when you needed it. That's not something to apologize for." "But I was using you," Natalie said, mortified. "I just wanted to make my ex jealous." "Did it work?" Gabriel asked, a hint of humor in his voice. Natalie glanced toward where Derek had been standing. He and his date were leaving, his expression tight with what might have been anger or wounded pride. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I stopped caring about 3 dances ago." Gabriel smiled, and it transformed his serious face into something warm and open. "Good. Because I like to keep dancing with you, not as your boss, not as some prop to make an ex jealous, but because I'm enjoying your company more than I've enjoyed anyone's in a very long time." They danced until the quartet stopped playing.